Greetings, dear viewers. JLB here. Very pleased to have you all back here again. On today's episode, we are going to be exploring the origins of one of the most famous animation companies in history. I'm really hoping you guys are excited because we are going to be talking about the very first Hanna-Barbera cartoon, the Ruff and Reddy Show. Now, obviously, we know Hanna-Barbera for creating such cartoon characters that have gained fame like the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Snagglepuss, Tom and Jerry, etc. We all know them for that. But before all those famous characters came about, there were these two. Ruff, I believe he was the cat, I believe? And Reddy, the dog. Just like Tom and Jerry, they were more like buddies, but unlike Tom and Jerry, however, they weren't adversaries. They were housemates as well as best friends. How did Ruff and Reddy come to be? Well, it all started back in 1957. The animation/director team of William Hanna and Joseph Barbera were terminated from an 18-year-long tenure with MGM, producing the animated Tom and Jerry shorts. Their staff, which had 110 inkers, painters, and animators, they were let go as well. Now, MGM found it more profitable to continually re-release older cartoons than to produce new ones. But Hanna and Barbera remained as partners, and they invested $30,000 out of their own pocket into a new venture, HB Enterprises. Now, the duo began working on storyboards featuring new characters, and the first among them was Ruff, a cat, and Reddy, who was a dog, as I said. Now, Hanna later equated their respective names with he and his partner's dispositions at the period in which they were created. They forged a deal with former MGM colleague George Sidney, in which he forged a small percentage of the new company in return for acting as a business representative. Sidney also arranged for a meeting at Screen Gems, who, fun fact, were the television arm of Columbia Pictures, now known as Sony Pictures Television. But anyway, they forged a deal and they forged a meeting with Screen Gems, who had at the time been considering re-entering the animation business. Feeling confident that in the Ruff and Reddy characters, the duo presented their proposal along with a streamlined production budget employing very limited animation. Oh, and that's another thing I forgot to mention. The animation for Ruff and Reddy was very limited, but these two characters, they showed Hanna-Barbera was a pioneer in using limited animation techniques. Now, Ruff and Reddy, as one of the first original animated series produced for television, pioneered the technique of limited animation, as I said. Now, limited animation will require far fewer drawings, and by extension, less ink and paint. This method was employed by necessity, as higher budgets had been the cause for the collapse of the theatrical cartoon business. Now, Hanna, in a 6-page memo, had attempted to convince his superiors at MGM to employ economized techniques in order to reduce the cost of their short films, but that was never responded to. And at that time, he had estimated a 6-minute cartoon to cost at least $17,500 if it employed the limited animation technique, down from the $35,000 budget from that the duo received from MGM. Now, when pitching to Screen Gems, Hanna had worked down the numbers to a much smaller $3,000, and the duo were very confident that the company would respond with great excitement. And of course, Screen Gems appreciated the show concept, but they explained to the duo that the budget for television, which was still an experimental medium at the time, would be very stringent. And eventually the company gave the partnership an option to produce five 5-minute segments, with an escalating budget starting from $2,700. In addition, Hanna-Barbera actually made the decision to produce the segments in full color, despite the fact that most television programs from the period were created and broadcast in black and white. Now, of course, Hanna and Barbera were fond of the ongoing comedic rapport of cartoon duos. Among them, Wile E. Coyote of Roadrunner, Sylvester and Tweety from Warner Brothers, and their own creation at MGM, Tom and Jerry. They were variations on this theme, but with Ruff and Reddy, they decided to delete the Nemesis theme and make the characters best friends instead. Which is why Ruff and Reddy are more like housemates as well as best friends. Hanna actually wrote the series' theme music in his first foray into theme music composition, which would become a staple for Hanna-Barbera cartoons for nearly 30 years. His goal? Capture the spirit of the characters while also catching the listener's ears. He penned the lyrics one morning while storyboarding, handing off the sheet music to musical director Hoyt Curtin, who composed the melody. Now, unlike Tom and Jerry, the two characters could talk, and the duo held auditions to find voice artists. Now, mainly selecting those they worked with at MGM, Hanna-Barbera decided to cast Don Messick as Ruff and Dawes Butler as Reddy. But how exactly did Ruff and Reddy fare? Well, the series was set to be the opening and closing acts for a half-hour children's program airing on Saturday mornings. Yes, this was the origins of Saturday morning cartoons. While they had screened the pilot episode prior to the broadcast, Hanna later admitted that he was nervous as to how the public would respond. But of course, the show was a success, and NBC, following the success, signed the duo to a 5-year contract to produce and develop additional animated TV series. And the rest, as they say, is history. But after all this time, are Ruff and Reddy worthy of being seen once more? Well, if you're a Hanna-Barbera fan, absolutely. If you want to see the origins of where your favorite characters come from, like Yogi or Huckleberry Hound, Augie Doggy, Wally Gator, I think Ruff and Reddy is worth a look. As for myself, I grew up with Yogi, and personally, knowing that there were characters before Yogi Bear came about is kind of interesting in a way. And, well, though they may be in Wasteland these days, I'd say it's worth it to pay a visit to Ruff and Reddy. After all, where would Hanna-Barbera cartoons be without Ruff and Reddy? Anyway, thanks so much for joining me, everybody. I am very pleased to have you guys here. And definitely leave in the comments the answer to this week's this question. My question is, which Hanna-Barbera character did you see for the very first time? Personally, my very first Hanna-Barbera cartoon was Yogi Bear. Grew up with Yogi, couldn't imagine a world without him. So I may as well see you all next time, and, well, keep smiling. Because, well, more Hanna-Barbera cartoons are definitely going to be on the show, so stay tuned for them. In the meantime, TTFN, ta-ta for now.